The snow came down without mercy, swallowing the city in white silence. Traffic slowed to a crawl, headlights blurred into pale halos. Inside the backseat of a sleek black SUV, three identical little girls pressed their noses against the glass, watching the storm with wide, fascinated eyes. Their father barely noticed it. He was on a call about a merger worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. His voice was sharp, controlled, efficient. To him, time was currency, and tonight the storm was stealing both. Then one of the triplets gasped, "Daddy, stop." He frowned, distracted. "We can't stop here, it's freezing." But the girls were no longer watching the snowfall. They were staring at the bus stop ahead, barely visible beneath the blowing snow. A single figure stood there, hunched against the wind, coat dusted white, hands trembling. "She's going to fall," one of them whispered. He glanced up, irritated at first. Then he saw her, a nurse, judging by the faint blue scrubs visible beneath her open coat. She swayed slightly, gripping the pole as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you rewatching from. I love knowing who is listening. He hesitated. Stopping would delay him. The roads were dangerous. His driver looked at him in the rearview mirror, waiting for instruction. The rational side of him calculated risks, liability, time, schedule. But the girls were uncharacteristically quiet. "Daddy," the smallest one said, her voice trembling more than the wind outside. "What if that was us?" The words hit harder than the snow against the windshield. He exhaled slowly. For years, he had built an empire by moving forward, never sideways. He donated money, funded hospitals, signed checks for causes he barely had time to visit, but stopping personally, that required something different. "Pull over," he finally said. The SUV eased to the curb. The wind howled as he stepped out, his polished shoes sinking into slush. Cold bit through his coat instantly. He wasn't used to it. His life was temperature controlled, insulated from discomfort. The nurse looked up, startled. Her face was pale, lips tinged blue, exhaustion weighed on her eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked. She tried to nod but stumbled instead. He caught her arm just in time. "I just finished a double shift," she said faintly. The buses stopped running. The storm thickened, swirling around them. Other cars drove past, their drivers glancing but not stopping. For a brief second, doubt crept in. Was this wise? Inviting a stranger into his vehicle with his children inside? His daughters answered that fear for him. They had already opened the back door. "Please come in," they said together. Inside the SUV, warmth wrapped around them like a blanket. The nurse shivered uncontrollably at first. One of the girls handed her a small pink scarf. Another passed her a juice box from their snack bag. The third simply held her hand. He watched silently. The nurse introduced herself softly. She had spent the last 12 hours caring for patients overwhelmed by the storm, elderly neighbors, a child with pneumonia, a man recovering from surgery. She had stayed because no one else could, and now, she admitted with a tired smile, "I didn't think anyone would stop for me." The girls frowned at that. "Daddy always stops for us," one of them said confidently. He felt something tighten in his chest. The moral tension settled over him like the falling snow. He had convinced himself that providing luxury and security was enough, that his role was to protect, to earn, to build, but his daughters were watching. Something deeper tonight. The SUV began moving again, heading toward the address the nurse gave them. Traffic crawled, snow piled higher. The city looked softer, almost humbled by the storm. He found himself asking questions he rarely asked strangers, about her work, about what kept her going. "People need someone," she said simply, "even when it's hard." He glanced at his daughters. They were listening carefully, absorbing every word. When they reached her small apartment building, he stepped out again to help her to the door. The cold felt different now, not hostile but grounding. "Thank you," she said, her voice steadying. "You didn't have to stop." He looked back at the SUV, where three small faces watched through fogged glass. "Yes," he replied quietly, "I did." As he returned to the car, the girls were smiling in a way he hadn't seen before, not excited, not playful, proud. The drive home felt different. The merger call was forgotten. The storm no longer felt like an inconvenience, but like a teacher. That night, after tucking his daughters into bed, he lingered, longer than usual. He noticed how small their hands were compared to his, how easily they had recognized what he almost ignored. In the days that followed, he did something unexpected. He visited the hospital not for publicity, not for press, but quietly. He asked what the night staff needed during storms, better transportation arrangements, emergency lodging, warm meals. He funded those changes, yes, but he also showed up. The nurse saw him again weeks later, not as a billionaire in a suit, but as a father volunteering alongside his daughters in the pediatric ward. The girls handed out coloring books, he carried supplies. The snowstorm had passed, but something permanent had shifted. He realized that true leadership wasn't about being the most powerful person in the room. It was about being the most present, and his daughters had been the ones to teach him. Sometimes children see what success blinds us to, sometimes a storm strips away everything unnecessary. Compassion is the greatest wealth a person can ever hold, and in the quiet courage of small hands tugging at our sleeves, we often find the direction we didn't know we needed. If this story warmed your heart, share where you're watching from and tell us what moment touched you most. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories and stay with us for the next journey that might just change everything.